Hello again, Struck Club. The second Diablo 2 beta weekend, the open beta weekend, was great. It let us play the Druid finally, it let us play the Necro finally, and now I'm sharing my thoughts / impressions about the Druid class. What I thought about the Druid, how it felt leveling the Druid, how it felt playing it later on at level 25, doing dungeons and other types of content. And in general, what I felt the different types of skills / builds I can do were like during my experience. The class has a lot of diversity in terms of how you can build it, so it was something I was looking forward to a lot. So hope you enjoyed this video. Buckle up, Struck Club, and let's go. Now, about that druid. During the second beta weekend, I decided to level the druid first. Oh boy, was I off to a bad and unhappy start of my weekend. This class felt like the worst in terms of how weak and underpowered it feels to level it up. I even had some spare yellow gear and some low level gear with non-druid universal legendary aspects on them to use while leveling it up, and still felt excruciatingly painful to solve the story and the level up to 25. It was not the reasonable amount of challenging, but a devastatingly harsh and the not fun at all kind of experience. Even worse than leveling a barbarian. I did eventually um, get to see a decently synergized druid in at least one setup, which was the storm plus earth juggling nature build. But I spent tens of hours in my last 2 days of the weekend to try and gear up that druid for the werebear build, where pulverize becomes also an earth skill and thus added tectonic spikes for damage, was the aspect for the two earth skills, plus two earth skills when we have fortify, plus the aspect to give us plus two to shape shifting skills. While we have hurricane, plus another aspect for pulverize that makes it send out shockwaves forward on top of its default circular AoE and the tectonic ones from the other aspect. So I couldn't fully test that werebear build. More about it in a moment. I tried various druid build setups, but all of them felt awful without gear and proper aspect synergies. But how is a skill that stands out and an awesome one at that to have on any setup, so it's a must have for me. It heals and it can generate spirit if upgraded for it. One setup that felt kind of okay but not damage wise was an earth centric setup. Lance White and Boulder with Earth Spike was the obvious earth only combo. Adding Earthen Bulwark for defensiveness plus Petrify as ult. The problem I had there was the damage whacked big time without proper items, and Petrify was very underwhelming for an so-called ultimate build. The stun was nice, but the 3 plus 1 seconds duration kind of sucked. The extra X25% crit damage only for 4 seconds and only to petrified enemies was super underwhelming for a 60 seconds cooldown. At 30 seconds for this skill, this might have been a better base cooldown there. Landslide is a very good and strong skill as a base, and if you can manage to keep feeding it spirit, it can do the DPS needed. However, at level 25 with yellow items mostly, that was not the case. I also tried a werewolf only build with Wasserate as an ultimate and using Shred plus Quo as core and basic skills. I believe that the werewolf build can definitely be worth using with the right gear that nudges towards a poison based setup. Rabies was a fun skill, but not that great by itself only. I saw some nice aspects that could potentially result in an incredibly strong werewolf build, but I'll have to wait until the game launches to try and test those properly when I have all the gear and levels needed. Seems like a werewolf plus many minions can also be a fun one to try too, and there was an aspect that makes the wolves into werewolves. I did mention above a bit about that werebear centric build that makes pulverize to also be an earth skill, and in theory this could have been level 10 pulverize or even more. 5 from skill points, 2 from one of the aspects, 2 from the other aspect, and at least +1 from gear affix / rose. Pulverize did do big bursts of damage every 10 seconds and was kind of okay to farm and do content with when I had some of the aspects, but I was missing the key ones, especially the Storm Shifter that lets us get +2 shapeshifting skills while Hurricane is on. I didn't even use Hurricane for this aspect, as I was gonna start using it for that setup after I obtained the specific aspect. Eventually, I gave up on playing that build and went to try some new stuff. Testing a Storm Magic only setup was not that bad once I had some average gear and a few legendary aspects. Storm Strike was definitely more fun than Windshare, and Lightning Storm felt more fun than Tornado. All of that with Hurricane and Cataclysm felt like a natural synergy. No pun intended here. But the thing that happened was I kept getting items with aspects that boost uh, Earth skills after using a Storm skill and Storm ones after using an Earth skill. So I went ahead and tried the hybrid with Storm Strike plus Lance White. Plus Earthen Bulwark, plus Bloodhound, plus Hurricane. I also added Boulder, which I didn't put the point into. I was just getting it from an item that was boosting those types of skills there, that category. Now, the interesting thing here is that during the beta, for the limited skill points we had, I felt like using um, my last 3 points that go into the ultimate category were better spent in the, those last 3 skill points that we get that are the only 3 points we can spend in the ultimate skills cluster. I felt it was better to spend them on Defiance, which is a passive, which gives us nature magic skills, deal 4% multiplicative increased damage to elites, instead of getting any ultimate and its 2 upgrades. I tested the ultimates and also tested using Defiance, and I preferred having those 3 points of 4% each for a total of 12% Earth and Storm damage to elites. And something to keep in mind here is elites apparently count as elites. Bosses also count as elites, but obviously elites don't count as bosses. I kept getting some amazing storm-related aspects, and was now getting. I was not getting much Earth ones, but the one I had that boosted um, one when using the other. By this I mean boosting Earth when using Storm and boosting Storm when using Earth. Was enough when using Lens White the right way. I also added the aspect that boosts core skill damage for n% of multiplicative damage up to x times 50, up to 50% multiplicative damage, and just used Storm Strike to build the stacks before unleashing Landslide for solid damage. Again, no pun intended here either. I even used for a while the aspect for basic skills, attack speed, so that I can use Storm Strike faster and build those stacks faster. Um, but eventually swapped it out for something else that felt more useful overall. There were all sorts of storm-based lightning / thunder hitting the enemies kind of procs and those types of aspects. And that build felt like something that can be decent without fully synergized gear. Eventually, if you do get all the right aspects to even have yourselves a very nice proc monster build. So while Druid felt awful to level up with shitty gear, eventually min-maxing some of the gear and upgrading plus rerolling a little bit here and there made it feel decent on at least one setup I could manage to do this for. Sadly, when leveling up, our focus won't be much on this, as we'll be constantly getting new gear and one can only imprint an aspect that is not in the codex once. Hopefully they actually change this, by the way. Druid, just like Barbarian, needs to be looked at to see how to improve the WoW level story running pre-end game level up experience in the lower levels without making those classes overpowered in the late game. To get notified when I upload more content like this one or other builds and guides for Wooter and not so Wooter games, you can subscribe to my channel and hit that bell button to not miss out on notifications. As well as keep in mind there's something called memberships on YouTube, which lets you be a paying member for my channel to get access to perks such as emotes and badges made by me, as well as the option to get one-on-one tutoring for the very basics of Adobe Photoshop, Premiere and After Effects. And memberships can be cancelled at any time if you no longer wanna be a member. Thanks for watching all the way until the end, Struck Up. Keep it cool until next time and goodbye.